Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you'll find a way to win or you'll find a way to lose. Look, Deontay Wilder and Francis Ngannou. A lot of rumors swirling that these guys could be fighting. There are some talks already taking place between the camps, between the teams, and negotiations could be a bit preliminary, but negotiations could be on the way. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it would be that difficult to make the fight, seeing that this fight has been discussed between Wilder's team and Ngannou's team, between Wilder and Ngannou personally, over the last couple of years. Especially taking a look at where Deontay Wilder's career is at this moment. To me, it almost makes sense for him, who is just barely hanging on, to go for the cash grab, and especially fight a guy like Francis Ngannou in Africa. Some people don't want to, look, I'm just going to be straight, right? Deontay Wilder is born in America. He's an American, okay? He ain't African. I'm born here. I'm not from Trinidad. I'm not a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Did I live there as a kid? Yeah. Did I grow up with the culture? I mean, if your family is from another country, more than likely, no matter where you grew up in the world, you're going to grow up with the culture. So yes, but I just got to shoot straight. So for those who are going to say, Hood Champion, man, you don't want Wilder to be proud of his roots. I didn't say that, McNicholas. You're the seagull flying in here squawking about talking crap. I didn't say that. What we're doing is talking facts. It's the American versus the African. But the thing is, Wilder did have, I think it was when they do the genealogy test, whatever it is they go out there and do, right? Anyway, it looks like, as far as with his ancestry, majority of his ancestors, based on the blood test, originated from Nigeria. And that's something to be proud of. I think any and everybody should do some of those studies and those tests. Kind of give you a little peek behind the tent flaps of, where you come from and who you are. But that being said, they could sell Wilder and Ngannou in Africa, because in Africa they love Wilder. They love Deontay Wilder. But at this point in Wilder's career, to fight a guy like Francis Ngannou, even though Wilder's just barely hanging on, I think Wilder, now I think he loses to Francis Ngannou. That's just me. But I think Wilder will still be the favorite in a boxing match against Francis Ngannou. But it's not a guaranteed walkover. Anybody saying Wilder, if you're still talking about the Wilder right hand, you just don't want to accept the fact that Father Time is undefeated and Wilder is well beyond his prime. Tyson Fury took a pound of flesh out of him, and Wilder is a tenth of what he once was. But at the end of the day, that's what makes this matchup compelling. Now, as far as Wilder's edge, look, you got to just talk about his experience, his technique, at least what he really had under Mark Breland. You look at him now, the technique, it's kind of hard for me to say he has great technique, because most people said he never did have it, but I felt under Mark Breland, Wilder had sound technique, and it showed. You just don't get in the ring being a Ricardo Mayorga and be able to do what Deontay Wilder did in so many fights, and even at the elite level. So he was able to get his respect and dominate guys who he was fighting and knocking them out, setting traps, lining them up. He was able to do that. But he's a former WBC champion. He got over 40 professional wins. And I think he has, 40, maybe 40 knockouts, 43, something like that. I should have pulled the stats up, but I ain't here to talk about all that. But despite his loss to Jaleel Zhang Joseph Parker, many believe he still possesses one-punch KO power. Now, I do believe that if Wilder hits you, he'll hurt you. I mean, I talked to my boy Tyrell Herndon. He told me, he's like, Wilder can crack. Now, Herndon is a guy who just fought Wilder. He lost to Wilder. But he said Wilder can crack. So in addition to Wilder's power, he has over a decade of boxing experience. That's something that Francis Ngannou doesn't have. But Francis Ngannou is a fighter. Now, as far as Wilder's footwork, look, I personally don't think I think he had someone he was with Mark Breland, but once Mark Breland was kind of kicked off the island and shit, I just don't see great footwork from Deontay Wilder. If anything, his feet are always crossing. He's off balance. He's falling over. He's tripping. He's throwing punches, and it's just hard to watch with Deontay Wilder in the ring. When it comes to his timing isn't there anymore. For people who say Wilder never had timing, I just think about when he was fighting Luis Ortiz in that second fight. And he just lined him up, timed him, boom, got him up out of there. So Wilder has timing. But this thing about him being able to drop the right hand on a guy like Francis Ngannou, maybe he can get it off. But I will say maybe before in the past, when it comes to footwork, timing, power, and maybe Wilder edged Ngannou out. But right now, Wilder in decline. Maybe he's got a little more boxing IQ. You got to give him that. I still think Wilder has gone now from being a top dog in the sport to someone who is now trying to readapt himself with the sport where he once was recognized as the baddest man on the planet since Mike Tyson because of his one-punch knockout power. Now, when it comes to a guy like Francis Ngannou, I just think the way he grew up, his upbringing, and how he ended up in the position he's in right now, from leaving Africa and ending up over here in America. You guys, I'm not going to give you the whole history of Ngannou. Watch the documentary on that guy. It is very inspiring. It's sad. It's an eye-opener. It will help you to connect with him and root for him. But when you look at Francis Ngannou, if he was able to shock the boxing world and drop a Tyson Fury, who was still very much in his prime, out of shape, didn't take him serious, what do you think he does to Deontay Wilder? The fight definitely is not going the distance like it did with Fury. I think someone gets knocked out, and I think Wilder gets knocked out. Because what Francis Ngannou has proved, he's not just a free swinging brawler. He actually understands boxing. He's a fast learner. He's a student of the game. And whatever you go over with him in training camp, he's able to deliver that when he actually gets into the ring. That just lets you know that he's an amazing and special athlete. Now, we all know when he got in the ring with Anthony Joshua, Ngannou had all the confidence in the world. But, with a guy like AJ, who has more boxing IQ than Deontay Wilder, AJ just exposed Francis Ngannou's limitations. I think Ngannou felt he was going to come in there and, do AJ the way he did Tyson Fury, and he learned with the quickness that, you play with fire, you'll get burnt, and that Anthony Joshua wasn't that out of shape Tyson Fury. But the bottom line is, defensive awareness maybe didn't show up in that fight between Ngannou and AJ, but defensive awareness hasn't really showed up for Deontay Wilder in his last couple of fights. Even when he fought Herndon, there was a moment in that fight where Herndon hit him and it looked like he buzzed him. And Wilder can't afford for a guy like Francis Ngannou, who just has natural power, naturally intimidating, and has the kind of natural pressure because of him being a UFC fighter and the way that he fights. So I just think people need to kind of get beyond what Wilder was in the past and deal with the current reality. The current reality is Wilder is about to be 40 years old, or maybe just turned 39, going on 40. Coming off a win against Tyrell Herndon, but he's 1-4 since 2021. And when you look at those facts, you just have to understand with a record like that, the inactivity, look, his durability and confidence have taken a lot of hits, man. And does the power remain? I think it's there, but he just doesn't seem to have the confidence to want to let it go. And again, I always say, I think he's had a pound of flesh, 2 pounds of flesh taken out of him by the Tyson Fury bouts. And I do think Tyson Fury cheated. I do. That's just my opinion. Not everyone agrees, but I think he does. I think he did. But with Francis Ngannou, he's up there just like Wilder. Wilder with 39, 40, going on 40. Francis Ngannou, 38. He's 0-2 in his boxing matches, but he held his own in the first one. I mean, didn't stand a chance, got tranquilized when he faced AJ. But he has those MMA instincts, and maybe he can adapt that to what he's doing in the boxing ring and get it to show up. Because I think he'll need that to translate, especially against someone like Wilder. If Wilder's got some of his confidence back and knows if Joshua landed a right hand on him, maybe I can get my jab and right hand off, because Wilder does throw straighter punches. Yeah, I think he could. Because, look, I still think, I know Wilder still has the power. Maybe not quite the confidence, but if for a moment in time Wilder can just let the shot go, feet set, get his weight behind it, get that torque on it, I think that's a very dangerous proposition for Francis Ngannou. So if you say, well, what would be the X factor in this fight? I think it's the mentality of both men. Wilder, 1-4 record. Tyrell Herndon, not many people rate him. I do, because I know him. I know how hard he worked. But really, he's not on that level with those guys. Francis Ngannou, mentality is getting beyond what he experienced with the knockout loss to Anthony Joshua. Wilder's been in deep waters with Fury, with Parker, survived some brutal wars. Looked like he may have hurt Zhang in the fight, but it wasn't enough. Zhang did what he did to Deontay Wilder. It's pretty sad to watch that happen. But he can't be hesitant and allow Ngannou to dictate the pace and start to kind of cut the ring off and start walking him down, because shit could get chaotic real quick. People have to understand, Francis Ngannou may be the hardest puncher right now in combat sports. And that's not me exaggerating. I believe he is the hardest puncher in combat sports right now. There was something he hit. They were doing some tests measuring his punching power. I can't remember exactly what they equated it to, but Francis Ngannou is the hardest puncher in combat sports. Wilder cannot let him land on him. So the bottom line is Wilder still has the tools to beat Ngannou. Maybe he has enough to beat him decisively in a boxing match. When you think about both men's age, the volatility, the knockout power, it's a high risk fight for a guy like Deontay Wilder. But it's a very high reward for a guy like Francis Ngannou if he beats him. But the bottom line is, I really feel somebody is going to get slept. So, what must a guy like Wilder do to dent the chin of the African Francis Ngannou? I think he knows how to do it. He just doesn't do it anymore. He's got to use feints. He's going to try to freeze Ngannou's feet so he could get him stationary so he could try to land. One thing for sure, Wilder can't get on the ropes. If he get on the ropes and you let Ngannou start to open up on you, oh shit, it's all over. The other thing is understanding you get a guy like Ngannou who got you on the ropes and unloading. If Wilder can, pinpoint the escape routes and get the hell out of there, well, then now he can take it back to the center of the ring and kind of double up the jab and start to establish some control and regain the momentum of the fight. You see the double jab is just going to blind Ngannou, who he's not comfortable with blocking shots with the gloves. Instead of just catching or parrying, he lifting his arms up, moving around. So anything, the double jab is just going to blind him, and I think Ngannou's just going to blind himself. And then all of a sudden, Wilder has a lane for that missile of a right hand, and he just has to throw it. And the biggest thing here is just, for Wilder and Ngannou, punch through the target. If you're going to let your hand go, try to punch through his face, punch through his head. Try to kill him. Same thing for Ngannou. Try to punch through Wilder's little narrow body, little frail chest. He looks like an upside down slingshot, you know what I'm saying? Punch through him. You know what I mean? Don't sit there and take it easy on him. And I think whoever can do that and land, I think they're going to have a lot of success. And Wilder's been throwing wide shots, and Ngannou throws wide shots. I don't know if either one of them can do it, but if someone can somehow pull counter right like Anthony Joshua, just throw a straight punch and and time it when the opponent throwing the wide shot, I think they're gonna have some success. So if they can get a guy like Ngannou, look, or Wilder to overcommit, I think the KO is there. But I want to make sure that I'm fair to a guy like Ngannou, because what happens if we've seen what happens when Wilder hits people in boxing with gloves on. With Ngannou, you really haven't seen what happens if he hits somebody with boxing gloves on and really cleanly. He hasn't put anyone out cold. He dropped Tyson Fury. He obviously buzzed him, but he didn't put anyone out cold. But if a guy like Ngannou lands cleanly on Deontay Wilder, shit can get nuclear real quick. Ngannou has that real power, just like Wilder, just like AJ. Power's different, man. Short left hook, right hands, hardest punch ever recorded in combat sports. Tell you what, man. You look at Parker, you look at Fury, you look at Zhang, and what kind of damage they're able to inflict on Deontay Wilder. But the awe and the intrigue of those guys and the damage they inflicted on Deontay Wilder, that shit will not hold if Francis Ngannou can land. Then Francis Ngannou will have succeeded those guys as probably being the opponent who damaged Deontay Wilder the worst. Anybody who disagrees, got to understand, Wilder's punch resistance declined, man. He ain't the same. Even if he still had 100% of whatever punch resistance he possessed before he fought Tyson Fury, anybody getting hit with by a guy like Ngannou, man, you're gonna mentally unravel. And if you don't get knocked out cold and start, pissing and shitting on yourself and lose control of your bodily functions. But I do think for a guy like Ngannou, I'm gonna give Wilder the credit with the boxing experience and IQ because he's been doing it so long. So maybe the early rounds are where Ngannou has his best shot. But after he gets past round 4 and 5, if Wilder's still there and Ngannou's getting tired, as long as Wilder doesn't get tired, but Wilder normally has pretty good conditioning, Wilder just may start to outbox him and win the fight. Who knows? It may knock him out. I don't know. But I think it's all about Wilder trying to weather the Ngannou storm early and then finding the Wilder rhythm late. But still, even Ngannou got to worry about Wilder's power in them early rounds. So Wilder thrives off of confidence. If he gets his confidence up, Wilder's he's gonna start stepping to him. But if Ngannou walks those early shots, Wilder might hesitate, and that's fatal because you start hesitating and second guessing, he's gonna look basically like how he did against Zhilei Zhang. No confidence, half committed on the shots, and slapping with the hook. He just looked bad, and I understand what happened. You know what I mean? You got somebody in there who can knock you out. Maybe you weren't 100%, and you end up getting paid, but you know it's dangerous. It's like me. I'm always jogging every morning, and whenever I'm running, I'm always looking because somebody say, "Yo, they got mountain lions out here," and I'm always watching. I'm like, "Shit, last thing I need to do is run into a mountain lion." So what I'm saying is, when I'm running, I'm going live most of the time, but I'm very aware. I'm very cautious. I'm always looking. The other day, a damn big-ass snake came out. I was live when the snake came out. I showed everyone. I got it. If you go to my live videos and look at the one where it says, Secret Society throws King Cobra at Hood Champion, you'll see when that shit jumps out at the 12-minute and 30-second mark. Big, long-ass snake came out of nowhere while I was right in front of me when I was running. Scared the shit out of me. So I think with Wilder, he's just very cautious because he knows the threat that lurks in the ring. Anyway, man, if Wilder can make Ngannou miss, he counters. I think Ngannou can get frustrated, get reckless. But at the end of the day, if you ask me who I think wins, I got to go with Ngannou. I do. But hopefully them guys make $50, $60 million a piece. Hopefully they do. They both deserve it. Anyway, let's see if this fight gets firmed up and finalized. I hope it does. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Y'all in the breeze.